You've probably heard that wind generation farms aren't exactly what you call a money-making business. They're not efficient, and they have a hard time making money. Most of them fail when it's only private money involved. They just can't sustain themselves. Now, you may ask, why does Repsol want to do this? They're a huge corporation, and they want to make money. Obviously, the federal government has out there billions and billions of dollars that they like to spend. Repsol claims that they're not using any federal money, but that's Repsol. They do say that they have a lot of private investors on this, private investment companies. Well, it's a known fact that a lot of private investment companies that are doing this green work, they're a middleman for the federal government. They're the guys the government is handing this money to, saying, go spend this money. The federal government doesn't want to spend it themselves, obviously. They don't do a very good job at it once in a while, spending money, so they get these other investment companies to spend it for them. Basically, the company that's going to do this, it's almost a win-win situation. They can't really lose. There's so many things the government gives them, tax breaks, incentives to do this, just to say they're going green. Repsol doesn't care where they put them at. They don't care about the people they put them around. They only care about getting the permits to build these things. And then more likely they're going to walk away from this. They say they're going to run it for years. That unfortunately may not happen. Because they really don't care. Part of the thing is, and they talk about it, is that they've said that, well, they have to put a bond up to do this, and that's for the cleanup on these things. The cleanup, we've done a lot of research on that, on wind farms, especially around the United States, does not have a good track record. When these things start failing, they're too expensive to fix. They just shut them down and let them rot. Now, legally up here, according to the state land trust, that there's going to have to be a bond up on this thing, and the company has to put a bond up. That's okay, but this company will know that that bond money will not be enough money to do a cleanup when it comes down to it. And the thing is, with that in mind, they won't come back. It's more profitable for them most of the time just to give up the bond money. That bond money, they include that in their cost of building this thing. That's taken care of. So the way they look at it, and it's happening all over the United States, is it's cheaper for them not to come back and tell them to keep the bond money. Well, guess who ends up with the bond money? The government agencies. And that's another bad track record across the U.S. It seems like a lot of these government agencies that get that money, by the time they have to use it, because the corporations that built these things walked on them when they went dead, they're dying, they're decaying, and they're not going to come back and clean it up like they're supposed to. Well, at that point in time, it's been that many years. Go figure, those agencies figure, well, there's probably a better use for that money than cleaning it up. And very little of that money goes back into a cleanup, and most of the money that goes into it goes into fencing and no trespassing signs. So not only have they ruined the land, they made it so we can't even use it anymore. They just fence it off so you can't get near these things because they are dangerous when they start rotting and deteriorating out in the field. This is that is extremely common in the U.S., and it's even worse around the world in the poorer countries. That's where it gets really bad. But there's so many instances in this country now with different companies, and that's what they do. They just leave them to rot. The ones that do get taken down, what happens then? Well, there's a chunk of land somewhere around there that is just covered with deteriorating propellers, gearboxes, anything like that, because it takes such a huge chunk of land in order to make it a place where they can just dump all these things. So next thing you know, all these chemicals that are deteriorating off the materials that make these blades, the gearboxes, the oil's in there and everything like that, well, it's leaching in the ground, it's getting into the water table. What's kind of funny is, about this project is, they call it going green. Everybody knows that. It's green energy, it's great. What kind of trade-off is it to get green energy and clean the air up a little bit when you're destroying a huge chunk of land to do it? Where's the equal part of that? I don't see that, and I don't think many of us see that. How can you destroy one thing and claim it's good just because of one other little thing that might be good? And now what we're trying to do here at these rallies, we've got two major battlefields on our hands. One of them is the Arizona State Trust Land Department. They are the ones that have to okay the lease for that land out there, because it's all on state land, trust land. So that's one of our battle lines. The other battle line is Apache County itself. And that is the Planning and Zoning Department, and it is our 3 supervisors up there. Planning and Zoning, they're the ones that got to approve the plans, which my guess is, unless they're terrible plans, they will approve it. However, that's just the plans. Because of the heights of these things, the company that's doing this, they have to get a variance for planning and zoning. And unfortunately, that goes to 3 people. That's it. They have the power right there to say yes to the zoning variance. So that's our other battle line. We as the people of Apache County, we need to have our voices heard. That's why we're all here today. We need extra voices, not just for the talking of it, this and that. The more voices we get, the louder we get, and the more we're heard. It's not necessarily having people talk this and that. The bodies going to meetings, county board meetings, planning and zoning meetings, just to show of the force out there. The letters that we're trying to get signed by the residents up here, even visitors, landowners that don't live up here, it all counts, and it's all valuable. They listen to that. We're going to force them to listen to that. We're doing a lot of technical studies and trying to get everything together for that, for when it comes time, if they start submitting things. Hopefully we have all the information that we need to find faults in what they're submitting. But really, to make this work, it's a public thing. More voices, the louder we are. But that's all I have for right now, and there's going to be a short video on the ecosystem of this, and after that, economics of this. And then Monica will be up here. She's our leader for the technical aspects of a lot of the research that we're doing. But thank you again for coming.
I've been watching them in the Netherlands go up, both offshore and onshore, and the economics make no sense. It's driven by tax benefit, government benefits. It's subsidized. The story doesn't make sense. Something doesn't make sense. The question always was, okay, what's the game here? And I think we're getting closer.
The turbines now being deployed onshore and offshore are failing far sooner than expected. Why? They've gotten too big. Then he has this graph that compares these things to 737s. Here's the rotor we're talking about, the GE Alliate X rotor. It's as big as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half 737s.
Right.
So now you've got a problem. Now these things are breaking, and you've got a company called American Electric Power, AEP, has sued GE Vernova in New York court, claiming widespread issues with the turbines. Basically, and here's the quote from the complaint is, a significant portion of the wind turbine generators have completely failed or otherwise been rendered inoperable, requiring immediate repair. So here's his devil in the details here. Is like, why are they doing all this? This guy, Robert Bryce, says foreign companies are collecting billions of dollars in tax credits so they can industrialize our oceans and do harm to our fisheries. So his motivation, he says, it's financial. They're getting tax credits. That's where he leaves it. But
right, but it's not economic, and the government is making it economic by using taxpayers' money to incentivize these when they don't make economic sense. And of course, the question is why.
This is a guy who's in an area with wind turbines. He says, I own property in a rural area where a massive wind project moved in. At first, the project was shut down because locals rejected it, but 2 years later, they came right back, changed the name of the project, and changed their tactics. What do? They targeted county commissioners and farms belonging to their families to grease the wheels when it's time to vote on approval of the project. In my area, we had 3 commissioners, and 2 of them, guess what? Benefited financially from the project. Wind energy companies then produce studies and, quote, science, end quote, to back up the narrative of how great the projects are. In my area, many of the studies they produce as evidence were either done directly by the energy company itself or their massive legal team, and one, in fact, was done by a state college, which just so happened to be the recipient of $1 million donations by the energy company. Also, there's intimidation of those who are opposed to it. They have thugs who watch people's houses. They show up at meetings and intimidate people who ask questions. But then the next phase is they roll up the contracts, and this is where things get very interesting. The people who give these contracts to the farmers don't tell anybody who's actually getting the windmills before they sign the contracts. They sign the contracts in the hopes that they will get windmills on their land and get royalties. But what happens to the contracts of those who don't actually end up getting windmills, you ask? Those contracts are void, right? Nope. The windmills have to be connected by huge underground cables. Some of those farmers don't get windmills, but they get their land completely torn up to install these massive cable lines connecting the windmills. Surely those farmers, though, get passive income, right? Nope. What they do is they get a 99-year lease. This is key. They get a 99-year lease on their land, okay? But the windmills will only produce energy for 20 to 25 years, meaning that you have another 75 years where the land's not going to do anything. After 20, 25 years, the motors of the windmills burn out. And once you sign a contract, you cannot talk about what's in the contract or deal or anything else. We're only a year into the project and no one's seen a dime. He says, this whole thing is about this isn't really about wind energy. The whole thing is a scam. They don't produce enough energy to justify the cost, and they know it and we know it. So what this is really about is control. Okay, it's not really about money, it's about control. How is the control exercised? It's exercised because hundreds of thousands of acres of land for 99 years, they don't even have to buy it, they just have to get you to sign the contract. The people behind us aren't buying the land, they're just getting you to sign the contract, and guess what? They now control our farms for 99 years, 75 years of which you won't even have any electricity at all.
So we've watched the same thing happen in the Netherlands. Huge windmills going up in the IJsselmeer that destroy the fishing stocks. And the theory was, okay, this is going to help us diversify away from Russian oil and gas, which, sells because the Dutch people don't want to be dependent on Russia. At the same time, now we have a huge Microsoft data center across the IJsselmeer, and it's clear, it's just hogging up all this energy. So all you're doing is you're swapping your fishing grounds for a control grid.
Exactly. In other words, whatever energy you're gaining from these monstrosities, you're losing to AI and you're losing to Bitcoin.
Right, so Bitcoin uses 117% of the energy that the Netherlands uses. And what you're doing is you're destroying the landscape and doing all this huge environmental harm and basically putting the fishermen out of business so that Microsoft can run a control grid. So you're...
Because the net effect of this is food supply reduction.
Yes, but it's not just food supply reduction. This is what was so brilliant about the Beard operator tweet. What he was able to explain is how the contracts and the gag orders are engineered so they control the land for 99 years. The other thing I have experience with, and I'm seeing it all across the country, is solar farms going in. So we're talking about wind now, but
yeah.
Solar farms going in, again, you have these transmission lines underneath the land that's locking up so much of the land. But the lies that are being told about the exit and cleanup cost. So let's say, so we're talking about 99-year leases. The life of the wind turbines or the solar farm, say, is 25 to 30 years, somewhere somewhere between 20 and 30 years.
Right.
Okay, what's the cost of getting rid of these things?
Yeah.
So the lies that are being told to local government about what the exit costs are gonna be, the cleanup and environmental and exit costs are phenomenal. And those are gonna get stuck to the landowner or the local government.
Right, so the short-term effect, meaning within 25 years, you get a net zero increase in energy because the wind farm is producing energy and Bitcoin's eating it up, but you're losing
Right.
food supply. But the long-term effect is you're not only losing your food supply, you're losing energy too, because the wind farm collapsed, but Bitcoin's
Right.
still eating a ton of your energy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And now you've got to pay for it, and you don't have any money because you don't have any income from your farms.
Right. Part of the thing that's stopping them from seeing the game is all the propaganda about how this is renewable energy, therefore it's good. So the control grid, it is like a tapeworm or a Pac-Man, clearly moving in, and the lies that they tell are unbelievable, and of course, they're trying to buy off the right local leadership, and this always comes down to, can you buy off the local leadership and roll the country? And that's the trick to plunder capitalism. You've got to get that local leadership to get bought off and tied. I'm finally beginning to understand winter.
Resident in this area. The health and safety of our community, as well as our environment, matter a great deal to me, and I'm sure they matter to you too. In the process of learning about industrial-scale wind turbine projects, our citizens group has discovered several concerns about the wind energy industry in general, and about the locally proposed Lava Run project in particular. We have studied the information this company, Repsol Renewables, formerly known as ConnectGen, we studied what they have been providing and telling our public officials and also to local citizens for the past many months. They've actually been here for almost 4 years talking to the ranchers that lease this state land, as well as interior landholders and adjacent private landholders. We've also been doing our own searches of short and long-term studies by various researchers on multiple topics at several wind farms already in operation. What we've found is that the so-called green energy industry is not very open to totally independent, unbiased studies about wind turbine threats to human health, nor to our environment either. Published papers by researchers who have no ties to the industry do exist, and we've started posting them for you to read on our website. I have brought and posted on the poster board by the wall back over here. I encourage you to look. Those are just cover pages of some of the research papers that we have found, and we're working on getting more of them loaded onto our group website. But please visit that and at least see the cover sheets of a number of those papers there when you get the chance. We'll keep looking and adding more of these research papers as time permits, because we believe that there's more to this story than just what the wind industry is telling us. We've summarized a lot of what we've learned and put it all into perspective with this company's own proposal for Lava Run. That summary is in a two-sided handout that we've got on our entrance table, two-sided handout that you'll want to get a copy of to take home today and read for yourself. It outlines why we oppose the Lava Run wind project, and you should too. But for now, I'll focus on just a few highlights from that handout about the potential hazards to our health and our environment. First of all, understand that Repsol is planning to construct 112 turbines within the area shown on the map that we have on a poster board there, and I have another map on the side. I will soon show you. Oh, he's got it up already. Great, thank you. 112 turbines shown on that map for full operation of both phases in the next 4 years. At 654 feet tall, these monsters are much larger than any turbines studied in research papers currently available. Most papers that we've studied state that the larger and taller a turbine is, the greater hazards it can present. Most people have seen or heard about the large numbers of birds and bats these things kill. But most people don't know is that it also has been documented that the fiberglass blades decompose as they are exposed to the weather. Wind, rain, hail, dust storms, temperature fluctuations, and probably at this altitude, the thin air as well, ultraviolet sunlight, those all combine to break down the epoxies, which then release bisphenol A plastic and glass fibers into the air. That's the same BPA that our plastic water and drink bottles are banned from containing because it is toxic to humans and other life forms. These toxins will pollute not only the soils and water bodies and animals inside the project, but they will also easily blow into town here to pollute our air, our lungs, our vegetable gardens, the Little Colorado River, and so forth. The National Academy of Sciences has found in multiple studies that large wind farms actually alter the air currents near the ground level. That means hotter air and drier air where we are living, which is not good for the plants or the animals or us. Also, many turbine fires have been documented in wind energy projects worldwide. That's because each turbine, in this case, Repsol says their turbines will hold 200 gallons of flammable oil and other compounds that release toxic smoke and chemicals into our air. Remember that these things are 65-story tall skyscrapers, so they can easily launch airborne toxins into the wind as well as ignite wildfires that our fire department will have to fight. This company claims they will do adequate monitoring and maintenance to prevent oil leaks and turbine fires. They claim the disturbing ground vibrations that these turbines cause will bring no harm. They claim the sound waves, pressure waves, and electromagnetic frequency waves generated by turbines and the connected network of buried and overhead power lines will pose no health risks to people or animals in or near the project. But published independent research papers exist to show evidence contrary to the company's claims. Several studies were done in other countries with turbines smaller than these that are proposed here. So their study results, when they're measured in metric, when we convert them to English units and scale them up to these massively bigger turbines, suggest that we can expect even greater hazards. Bottom line, not enough evidence exists yet to prove this industry is truly safe, nor has this new company yet completed a single wind project to prove that they can be trusted to keep all of their promises and permit requirements. And Logger One Wind Project is way too close to our community to take these chances for our health, the health of our citizens, our children, and our wildlife. And I'm going to show you now on the map some landmarks that will help you orient your perspective on the location. I hope you all can see the red pointer. Can you folks way over there see it? Can you folks see my red pointer? Okay, good. So they have two colors on here. They have a bunch of yellow turbine locations and then purple.
Let's get you close to the speaker. Can you come down there?
I'm gonna get away from this speaker. Any better? Okay. So the other ones are probably hard for you folks to see way over there, but we've got another map on the poster board near the entrance for you. This is both sides of Highway 60. This right here is Becker Lake. If you look at their scale, a distance scale here, and measure that out, this location of this planned turbine tower is just 4 miles away from Becker Lake. This is the Little Colorado River and floodplain. Again, these turbines are mighty close to all the bird flyways and important wildlife corridors and our surface waters that are in the Little Colorado. This side over here is the National Forest boundary. This is Carnero Lake, for those of you folks who know that. And so Greens Peak Hideaways is right here, and Hidden Meadow Guest Ranch is right next to them. There are 3 yellow wind towers proposed right on the boundary of the National Forest within 1 mile of Greens Peak Hideaways, 1.5 miles from Hidden Meadows Ranch. So we've got, and Springerville Airport is just right here, 6 to 7 miles away from the boundary of the project. And somehow I had verbiage on the bottom of this map that shows their total number, and that got cut off. Can you raise that map up a little bit, please? This is a map produced by the company. It was proposed, it was offered in one of their open houses that they held. Well, thank you, there it is. So this shows, they actually have 20 triangles on here that are extra alternate locations, but people have been confused about the total number of towers. Yes, the company says 112 total turbines proposed, with 20 alternate locations that they can move if they need to. But it's all very speculative at this point. They are very hedgy on their information. Our group attended their open house that they had here in Springerville back on, I think it was July 31st. We grilled them all day long with very detailed, pointed questions, and they did not come up with very believable answers in most cases. So, please take our handouts today from the tables and also check our website. Our website is printed on a lot of the handouts there. Please check our website often for new updates and please give some thoughtful consideration to how you can help our cause. Thank you. And next, Christy Spillman will briefly explain what we have on our tables for you and also how you can help. Thank you.
Hey guys, I would like to really thank everybody in the community for coming out today and for coming to all of our previous presentations. It's been really important for all of us to have your support, to know that you're on board, and we want to move forward with everybody pushing along. Every time we have one of these support rallies, we see a few more red shirts. We'd like to see that out in our audience. We are selling red shirts back at the table if you guys are interested, anybody who doesn't have them. The reason for the red shirts is really so when we go out in public, go to community meetings, county meetings, anywhere in the state, just a topic point. So when people see you wearing your red shirt, just make sure you know what you're talking about. Grab one of these sheets. And this has all of our main points on it, so it'll help you become a little bit more knowledgeable, and it'll help you speak out a little bit more, which I'm not great at. So anyway, so Barbara's selling the shirts back there, and so we thank you for all that you've bought so far. So I'm just really here to talk about the ways that you can help a little bit more. So we have the petitions. Pretty much caught everybody in this audience on the way in today. So thank you for signing the petitions. Those are going to be going out to county and state, just letting people know that you're opposed to the project. We also made a form letter that I think most people in here have filled out today. If you didn't have time to fill out the form letter, it's going out to county, state, federal, Arizona State Land Trust. Some of those, we will be delivering a packet of all of your hand-signed form letters. Some will be delivered in person, some will be delivered by certified mail, but all of your signatures count, and they're all going to go as a community to each one of these agencies. So we'll take care of that on your behalf. If you haven't filled one of those out yet, please feel free to do so before you go, and we appreciate that. We also are asking for a little bit of help. You can help in a few different ways by maybe becoming a volunteer. It takes a lot for us to set up, move things around, reach out to the community. A lot of you are well-spoken, social. If you think of ways that you can help us, maybe in our legal department, our research, every person that's on our core could use more minds and more bodies. So if there's something that you could do, you feel that you're good at, please feel free to sign up on our volunteer sheet. And we'd love to reach out to you at a later time and let you know how you can help us. So we have a lot of tasks that could absolutely help us. So we have a website. Like I said, we have a lot of physical things. We have fundraising. We have outreach in the community. If you just want to go and sit at a table and collect signatures, we're down with that. So just ask us how you can help. You can also be an advisor. If you're brain with legal or research, reach out to one of our core members. They'll tell you how we can use you in our group. You can also be a business sponsor. So by being a business sponsor, we may ask you for office supplies, just ask you to leave our flyers on your counter, sign petitions. A few places in the community have been fabulous with getting form letters and petitions signed. We really, really appreciate that. So thank you so much. So if you own a small business, if you think there's a way that you can help us, that would be great as well. Davis True Value, you guys have been awesome, by the way, for form letters. Much appreciated. We also wanted to thank Momentum Life Church and Pastor Dave for offering the church for us to use in the sanctuary today. That was really great, and your prayers for all of us to have a healthy journey for our fight. So thank you for that. We do have a donation jar set up for somebody if you've already bought a shirt or whatever. If you just want to throw a couple bucks in the jar, every little thing helps. So that's great. Barbara's got that at the back table. We also have some new swag, we call it. So we've got some buttons, we've got some stickers, we have some magnets that you can stick on your car. Any way you can show your support is appreciated. So she's got them for sale on the table back there. And just wanted to let you know that our next upcoming meeting, we're shooting for St. John's area on October 5th. So the location, time is to be determined at this point, but we're trying to reach out a little bit further than just our community. So there's another way that you can help. If you guys can help spread the word to your neighbors, to local communities, when people ask, or if you just feel like putting it out there, just put it out there. Talk to everybody. We do not want to see these wind turbines in our beautiful community. So anything that you can do, talk it. I think that's it for me. Next we have a video coming up. This is done by a local young lady, Danny Goodman. She did this as part of her environmental studies project as she's going through school. Danny is a local, and you're gonna see some local stuff in there, and that's all I got. Next we have The Devil You Know by Danny Goodman. Thank you all very much.
I constantly butt heads with my father about the business that he's been in for over 20 years. Longer than most of us has been alive, my dad has worked for a coal-fired power plant. That was at a time when I even voted for Arizona to become 50% renewable energy by 2030 by wind and solar farms. Looking back on it, I was young, a little uneducated, and had jumped on the bandwagon for this heavily promoted energy source that we were all being led to believe was somehow sustainable, green energy. Once I started listening to my dad, who I realized wasn't an enemy of the planet, I learned that SRP provides 1,766 megawatts of electricity. That's enough to power 1 million homes annually. Borderlands Wind Farm produces only 99 megawatts annually, meaning less than 25,000 homes will be provided power a year. And what parts of the environment are we sacrificing for so little power? In some instances, we're blasting mountaintops for wind farms, perpetuating deforestation and habitat loss for our wildlife. These windmills are loud and create noise pollution, further affecting wildlife. Not to mention they offer little power to residences and are still hooked up to the same grid our coal power plants provide. Solar panels are not much better at providing power to homes nationwide either. For perspective, a football-sized solar farm will provide power to about 10 homes annually. And manufacturing solar panels are not ideal for the environment. They require coal, quartzite, and rare earth mining. In fact, 98.5% of rare earth minerals and metals come from China. Do you think that fossil fuels are used to transport such materials?
While solar panels produce no emissions during their operation, the production of solar panels themselves produces large amounts of greenhouse gases. Nitrogen trifluoride and sulfur hexafluoride have been linked to the production of solar panels.
Trying to do our part in preserving our environment for our livelihood and our wildlife's livelihood. But I can't help but to think that there might be a bigger monster lurking behind the corner. So I went to some links to figure out what this monster might look like.
Technically, this isn't trespassing, right? Like I'm on the other side of the fence?
Well, I found the monster. This is Novo Biopower, the only biopower plant in Arizona, and it's located an hour and a half away from my hometown. Upon closer investigation, I found cut down trees piled on top of each other, and pallet after pallet stacked that seemingly never ended, while simultaneously they have plastered all over their website that they're carbon neutral. How can something like this be carbon neutral? An old friend who used to work there thinks carbon neutral is physically impossible, and Novo Biopower's idea is that wood waste that would have decomposed naturally offsets the CO2 and methane they produce by burning it. I guess they're not considering the amount of fossil fuels consumed to keep the operation going. I was there for not even an hour and counted over 20 semi-trucks coming in and out of the operation. They use the phrase wood waste, a fancy word for wood that cannot be commercialized, so bark, branches, chips, and shreddings of trees. Amy Pulsifer, the retired environmental superintendent of Springerville Generating Station, agrees that we are nowhere near replacing fossil fuels with wind, solar, and biomass. I'm not saying to give up, or to even stick with coal, the devil we know, forever. I'm saying not to be so easily fooled by the verbiage of all of these so-called green energy alternatives.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming here this morning. My name is Mark Seipke. I'm just going to touch a little bit about their economic impact study for our county. What I'd like to start out with is their work. This is their look at the future for Apache County. See if you agree. For decades, Apache County has thrived by powering Arizona with energy from the coal plants. The Lava Run wind and solar projects are a chance to continue this legacy for the next generation. This time with energy from clean and renewable sources. Can anybody here tell me how Apache County is thriving? We're the poorest county in the state.
The third poorest in the nation.
They want to help continue this legacy, according to their words. Is that anybody's vision for us? Is that where we should go? Is that them having the county's best interest at heart? Or is it just theirs? I think we know what it is. The name in Arizona, we talk about Repsol. Repsol is the parent company. However, they will be doing business in Arizona under C6 Apache County Wind LLC. That's what they'll be doing business under. That's their registered LLC in Arizona. It goes back to an LLC in Delaware. And then it finally makes its way back to corporate for North America in Houston, and then it makes its way back to Spain. The only that I can find thing that C6 Apache County Wind LLC has in the state of Arizona, much less Apache County, is basically a Dropbox company down in Phoenix. It's their statutory agent. So that's where the mail goes. And I'm nothing against that business, but we might as well realize that there is none of them here. In their economic impact study, and I'm just specifically talking about the wind farm right now, we can get into the solar thing at a later date. I don't want to keep you here. During their 2-year build out, they say on average there's going to be 100 jobs across the 2 years. Sometimes there'll be as high as 190, they say, but across it will be 100 jobs. I found an interesting piece in their projections that 80% of these employees will be being paid per diem. Now, what that means to me is that 80% of these employees are coming somewhere else. They do not reside in Apache County. So when they project $29 million in this build out in wages, that may be true, but only 20% is going to go to local, if that. I'm really doubtful about that. But only 20% is going to go to local people here. They use examples in their assumptions in this economic, that somebody who rents equipment, that they can accelerate the monetary value by saying in their assumptions that this person is going to use this money to buy groceries. I think everybody buys groceries one way or the other. I don't know how you use assumptions like that. They make assumptions about personal property tax is going to be paid to the county. And that will not be property as we think of it taxes. They're not going to pay property taxes on the land. It is a personal property tax about what they are going to own as far as their infrastructure. On their assumptions on things like sales tax and revenues into the county, and what we're going to benefit out of this is they have projections like these 100 to 190 employees are going to buy new cars. Can you tell me where I can buy a brand new car in Apache County? Please do. Bulldozers, cranes, all sorts of construction equipment that cannot be purchased in our county. I'm not going to go into the weeds any deeper about that, but there is a study being done that we're trying to put a real number to this. We had somebody bring it up. Wind is the least efficient way you can produce electricity. Basically, at best, it's about a 25% efficient. So when they say 300, 400, whatever they're saying, megawatts, reality is 25% of their proclamation, around there. Why wind? There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of money to be made. But there's another reason that we well need to be aware of. And that reason is this. Do you know California's tapped out on solar? There's no more solar going in California, at least at this amount of time. Why? Because the infrastructure will not take it, and solar will only produce electricity during the day. I specifically asked a representative from Repsol, face to face, why are you doing these wind turbines? He said, you know what's going on in California? I said, yep, I do. He said, so the only way we can do this is to balance it out. Or else they'll put the solar in Arizona out just like it is in California. We have to be able to show that we can produce at night, or it will ruin the industry. There's a couple things that it's like Monica said. These things are so tall. They're so big. There's very few studies done on them. Our zoning, as written, requires that there will be no wind turbines in the county that can't be bought off the shelf, basically. It cannot be experimental. They are not to be approved. Remind your zoning board of that piece and others. Another unknown for me is they, in their cost analysis, tell us how much is going to be pumped into our economy. It doesn't take into consideration at all. What if something goes wrong? What's it going to cost our economy? Not only what's it going to cost, are we prepared to handle it? I'll give you one example. Is our local fire departments prepared on the solar part of this to put out a massive lithium battery fire? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And some of you have probably seen examples of just car battery fires. We got to think of the other side of this too. I won't keep you in this any longer, but I know this. Based upon their own statements, their view of what Apache County should be ongoing or in the future is not ours, and we need your help.
I would just like to take a couple more minutes to explain to you folks the intensity of the impacts that this project, just the wind project alone, will have on our environment right next to us. With 112 turbines proposed, and again, I'm taking this data directly from the company's information boards that they had at their open houses, and I've got one on that, in the corner of that display back there, straight from their storyboard. For each one of these turbines, the foundations are 80 feet wide and at least 10 feet deep. That could require some blasting to get it down to anchor it on bedrock. Then they have an additional 8-acre laydown yard at each turbine site for 2 years worth of construction. That will be bare soil with all the vegetation removed. They will build an access road at least up to 20 feet wide to reach every one of these turbines. And they will dig hundreds of trenches to connect them all with underground buried power lines and communication cables. Now, our state trust lands are required to have uses that are only minimally invasive. I don't know about you, but I don't consider that to be minimally invasive. So again, we need to hold our officials, our land officials' feet to the fire on this. Thank you.
We have a pleasant, unexpected speaker, and that is Rob, who's next up. He'll tell you all about himself.
Because I work in the power industry, I've been invited to give a short talk this morning. I've been in the power industry for over 30 years. Up in Page, St. John's, and out here at TEP, generating power for this country. I'm going to give you an analogy. Most people don't even know much about how electricity